Okay. Hello and welcome to the Parsha class 5784, Parsha Ki Tissa, and it's a powerful Parsha, a lot of important events that basically affect all of the rest of Jewish history, all happen in this Parsha. Of course, the Jewish people commit the heinous crime of worshiping the golden calf. Some worship, some don't worship, whatever it is, the different opinions about different levels of observance there. But regardless, the Jewish people certainly did something wrong, which was worthy of them being punished to the point where the punishment for the sin of the golden calf continues to haunt the Jewish people for the rest of our history. It says in the Talmud that whenever the Jewish people sin in the future, part of the forgiveness process is for them to also earn forgiveness for that sin. So that's how big that was. And we'll discuss some of the details there and some of the effects, etc., as we look in a deeper jump into the parsha with the sources. Let's get right into it here. Hold on. Okay, I guess that's where we're doing this. Okay, great. Baruch Hashem. We have the source sheet from Sefaria 0209. It's the 9th parsha in the second book of the Torah, 5784. Young Israel of San Diego. Welcome. And so we're going to start with chapter 31, verses 2 and 3. So this is where Moshe, before the sin of the golden calf, there's quite a few events that occur, mitzvot that are given. The entirety of the first luchot are concluded by Moshe, and also a particular gentleman by the name of Betzalel is named to be the architect, more or less, for the building of the Mishkan. The parsha says, "Re'ei karati b'shem Betzalel ben Uri ben Hur lemata Yehuda." Hashem tells Moshe, "Look, I've called upon Betzalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, from the tribe of Yehuda. The Amale oto ruach Elokim b'chachma u'b'tvuna u'v'dat u'v'chol b'lacha," and I'm going to place in him all of these different skills he has to make the Mishkan a reality. Yeah. With that said, there's a number of commentaries there. First of all, it's important for us just conceptually realize that Betzalel is in charge of the entire building of the Mishkan that we've been discussing the last two parshot straight in Tazria and in Truma and Tetzaveh. And we will discuss as well next couple of weeks in Vayakel and Pekude. We'll also be discussing the building of this Mishkan. And there's a controversy, and we've talked about this in previous years. There's a matter of dispute about when exactly the events of this parsha of the golden calf, when they occurred. And if we're going in order, what seems to have occurred is that the building of the Mishkan was commanded first, and then the Jews sinned, and then they built the Mishkan. So the sin was just sort of like an interruption between the command and the actual building. That's how the Ramban understands it, and others. Other commentaries, Rashi most famously, says it wasn't in this order at all. And really what happened was the Jewish people were not supposed to have to build a Mishkan. Really, the whole idea of the Mishkan is what? That Hashem would rest his Shekhinah, Shachanti B'tocham, and would live amongst the Jewish people. And that was supposed to happen regardless of whether there's a Mishkan or not. In fact, it was supposed to be so inspiring to just even enter the camp of the Jewish people that you would feel Hashem's presence. That's what Shekhinah means. the fact that there needs to be a Mishkan at all implies that somehow, for some reason, Hashem withdrew somewhat. And of course, the way Rashi understands it is he withdrew because of the sin of the golden calf. The Jewish people no longer deserve to have Hashem's presence so easily felt, and it needs to be worked towards. And then for that to happen, there needed to be a structure in which a person could become inspired, and that was the whole point of the Mishkan. And the fact that Betzalel is chosen is not a coincidence, because as we are introduced to him, we're given his entire lineage all the way back to his grandfather, right? Betzalel, ben Uri, ben Hur, and that's because Hur is a central figure in the story of the golden calf. He is the person that the Jewish people killed in the process of trying to get this golden calf made, or this what do you want to call it? Substitute for Hashem, or a substitute for Moshe, whatever it was that they wanted at that point. They first came to Hur. Why is another question. We can discuss that another year. But they went to Hur first, and then when Aharon saw that Hur tried to stop them and he was killed for that, that's when Aharon did what he did, and that's what we're going to discuss next. Because we're going to skip right into the sin. They said they approached Aharon. This is chapter 32, verses 2 and 4. Vayomer alehem Aharon parku nizme v'zahav asher ba'aznei neshechem b'nechem uvnotechem v'haviu elai. Go grab the rings out of the ears of your wives, your sons, your daughters, and bring them to me. And if you're wondering why the sons are wearing earrings, it might have been the fashion back then. Let's keep it at that. And either way, so he tells them, you grab those earrings. And we know, first of all, somebody might not want to part with their earrings, right? So there's that possible stall method. And beyond that, it takes time, as we'll see. All of this is, as we'll see from Rav Hirsch's perspective, all of these are different ways that Aharon is trying to stall what eventually becomes inevitable. V'yitparku, but he didn't know that. V'yitparku kol ha'am et nizme hazav asher be'aznehem, and the people didn't do that. They didn't take the earrings from their from where he told them to get them. He took them. They took them out of their own ears. V'yaviu el Aharon, and they approached Aharon. So they sped things up. V'ikach mi'adam, he took them from their hands. V'yatzer oto ba'cheret, and he made a cheret is a kind of mold. V'yasehu egel masecha, and he made a representative of an egel, of a calf, from these earrings and such. And he said, Eile Elokecha Yisrael, sorry, it shouldn't be Elokecha, it should be Elohecha. Eile Elohecha Yisrael Asher Ha'alucha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. These are your gods. This is your God. Yeah, these are your gods. That took you out of Egypt. Yeah. So let's get right into Rav Hirsch's commentary. I think he'll be able to explain what he's trying to do better than I can. He noted this already in verse 1, which we're not reading, obviously. The implication of verse 1 and 35 is that Aharon acted under the coercive pressure of a powerful mob. We're going to see in Dvarim 9:20 that it explicitly says that Aharon committed a serious sin. He should have opposed the people in word and in deed, even at the risk of his own life. So what he did was wrong. We're not gonna try to be excuse him or be apologetic or anything like that. That's what I was looking for. We're not playing apologetics here. What Aharon did was wrong, but we have to understand why he did what he did. He thought that it was prudent and therefore proper to yield to the people for their own sake. It wasn't for him. He didn't want this. But for their sake, it was important to listen to them. This is how his actions have always been explained. Aharon reasoned that if he were to fall victim to the people, they would throw off all restraint and give themselves up to their folly all the more. Right? If they would have killed Aharon, if they would have done to Aharon what they did to Hur, it's not that he minded that they would kill him. He didn't mind sacrificing his life for the right thing. He was worried that without him, what would happen to the people? In fact, Rav Hirsch continues, Hur, who was left at Aaron's side to assist him, is never heard from again, which leads some to suggest that he attempted to oppose the people and paid for it with his life. That's what most people say. It was natural for Aaron to believe that by taking control of the events, he would be able to stall by means of a slowdown until Moshe's return, and that in any case, he would be able to limit the scale of the people's sin. So everything Aaron tries to do, and we're going to see detail by detail from the verse itself how that works out, but everything Aharon tried to do was a stall tactic to try to slow down the people until Moshe came back and even things out. Or, if that didn't work, then at least to sort of minimize the sin as much as possible. Let's see how that works. There is support for this interpretation throughout the episode. Aharon demands that the people take off the gold rings that are on the ears of your wives, sons, and daughters. He expects that the women and children will not so easily or quickly allow themselves to be deprived of their jewelry. Hence the expression parak, which always denotes a separation that can be accomplished only by considerable effort, like perek. Thus, 2, verse 4, v'yitzar oto b'cheret, instead of casting the gold into a mold, a process that would have concluded quickly, he melted the gold into one mass and then carved it out, slowly producing the shape, which could have been obtained quickly by casting. Notice he didn't cast it. Sorry, I said that wrong earlier. He didn't cast it into a mold, which would have been quick and easy. You have a picture of a cow or whatever, and you make a mold. You make you make a copy of it in gold for your services or whatever. So that's one possibility, and that's not the one he chose. That's the easy way to do it. Instead, he took a big clump of gold and sort of chiseled out from it to make this shape of a cow. Cheret relates to charat, always denotes a writing tool for engraving, a stylus. Thus, Aharon chose a weak instrument which would do the work in the slowest possible manner. See, these are the kinds of details you can see if you slow down and take a look at the words. It is worth considering why Aharon, who was given a free hand in the choice of the form, fashioned precisely the figure of a calf. You ever wondered that? Why did he make a calf? Why didn't he make a golden horse, a golden goat, or whatever? Why a calf? A calf isn't just a cow, by the way. It's a baby cow. So some have suggested that the calf represents Apis, the sacred bull of Egypt. This suggestion, however, fails to consider that the Egyptian Apis was not an idol figure, but a live bull of a specific shape and with specific markings on its side. Moreover, why should Aharon have chosen precisely the figure of an animal that was worshipped as the supreme deity in the people's former homeland? The fact that Aharon did choose this form slowly shows precisely that it was not intended to represent Apis or anything else resembling the sacred bull. As we have already noted on several occasions, and as will become manifestly clear in a discussion of the section on the offerings, the cattle species, par, shor, bakar, is the species of animal that serves man in his labors. And in the symbolism of Jewish offerings, this species represents, listen to this, the power to be employed in the service of a higher being. In other words, it's not like the power that reigns over us. That's not what a cow or a sheep or anything that represents. These are things that serve under us. They are ours. They're our animal. They're our cattle, our chattel, and we do with it what we will. This was the reason for Aharon's choice of a calf. On the one hand, he sought to satisfy the demands of the people who did not really seek another god, but merely a new Moshe, like we said before. On the other hand, he sought to limit the sin within the bounds of this partial defection. So this is wrong what they were doing. It's not like it's okay to find a representative, a substitute for Moshe. No, the people were wrong. But now that they're doing something wrong, can we try to minimize that somehow? So that's what he's trying to do. To this end, no other figure would have been as well suited as that of a bovine animal, which does not represent a ruling power, but only a servile tool. Also, by choosing from this category not a bull, but only a calf, a little baby, Aharon gave expression to this servile tool in its weakest aspect. So he writes more there, but we have time. It's worth looking at his commentary on that as well. But what I wanted to point out to you for now, what we've already seen, is that piece by piece, what Aharon is doing is he's minimizing, he's slowing down the sin, so there's less of a sin, that the Jewish people don't have to suffer as much punishment as they would have had otherwise. Again, all of this he's doing for himself. Not for himself, sorry. He's doing this for the sake of the Jewish people. Now, when he says, "These are your gods who took you out of Egypt," these words should be carefully analyzed in order to understand the outlook from which they stem. The Ramban has already remarked on this verse that more than anything else, the words Asher luchot in the past tense reveal the spiritual aspect of the idolatrous misconception that comes to light here. Asher yelchu lefaneinu can be explained as a crass fetishism. As for Asher Halucha, however, the people could not have been so foolish as to believe that the gold that so recently was on their own ears, the gold from which Aharon just fashioned the calf, that took them out of Egypt, even before it assumed the shape of a calf. It must be that these words of the people transcend the concrete reality of the freshly made animal form. Through this form, the people looked to a higher power which existed or was believed to have existed before the production of the form. The form is considered a symbol that calls forth and embodies this power. They're looking for a power. They don't really care about what the shape is. What they care is where's that power that took us out of Egypt? If we recall the people's first wish to have another Moshe, right, this substitute, it becomes clear that they regarded the freshly made animal image as being in the same relation to the Godhead as was Moshe's relation to God. We have already found that in their eyes, this relation was not that of someone sent by God of his own free will, but that of someone who was essential to them for influencing God to look after them and protect them. They were wrong. And this is not the first time, and it's not the last time. This actually, in some, according to some commentaries, leads to the basic sin explanation of the sin for that Moshe committed at the waters with the rock, that basically lost his entry into Israel. So that a lot of that had to do with what the people thought of Moshe. They did not really understand, most people, and they probably still have a problem with this with our leaders. We don't really understand. We don't really appreciate the fact that that leader is just being sent by Hashem. It's a representative of Hashem. It's not a pipeline to Hashem. In other words, it's not a way to influence him and tell him what to do. So but in their eyes, this calf was like a reborn Moshe, a reborn intermediary, and they placed it in direct association with God by saying in the plural, "These are your gods," right? Elah, right? O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. Thus, they expressed a false notion of the divinity of his intermediary, as though it were the decisive factor on which the acts of God himself depended. Oh, it's because he said so, that's why God did that. That's not how that works. They were mishatev shem shemayim v'daber acher, as our sages put it. It would have been the same sin to have prostrated themselves before Moshe, the living human being, and proclaiming about him, Elah Elokecha Yisrael asher ha'alucha me'eretz Mitzrayim. What they're doing is they're misassigning the role that God gave Moshe, and of course they're copy pasting it to how they're reacting to this calf, right? And they're saying this calf took us out of Egypt, as if Moshe took them out of Egypt. Moshe did not take them out of Egypt. Moshe was brought by Hashem to show the people that there's a connection between Hashem and them, that Hashem cares about them and Hashem is leading them. Not that there's a pipeline or some sort of like a way to influence Hashem to do things. All right, let's skip forward. After the sin, of course, Moshe sees that the people are worshiping the calf, and so Moshe's reaction, amongst other things, is to smash the luchot, the tablets that he's bringing, the Torah, the Ten Commandments, and then afterwards, as part of the forgiveness process of the Jewish people, Moshe is then commanded to carve new luchot, to new tablets. By the way, for us, practically speaking, those tablets are the tablets, right? That's what those are the luchot that we should know. Those are the luchot. Of course, the broken ones are there as well, but these are the luchot that are in the Aharon, wherever the Aharon is, right? Wherever Steven Spielberg says the Ark of the Covenant is, right? So inside there are, amongst other things, are the broken luchot, these luchot, a jar of man, etc. And and we talked about the kruvim on top of the Aharon just 2 weeks ago. So Lamed Dalet Aleph, so 34:1. The command for Moshe to make the luchot is very confusing. We're going to look at a number of commentaries to try to understand what exactly he's commanded and why in such a language. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe. Hashem speaks to Moshe, Psal l'cha shnei luchot avanim. Make for yourself 2 stone tablets. Why for yourself? That's what we've discussed that, I think, in previous years. Famous commentary is that obviously when you chisel things off of stone, some stone comes off. That was Moshe's quote unquote pay, right? He could keep the shavings or whatever else were chiseled out of the stone, and that made him a very wealthy man. That's one of the explanations for why it was for him. Shnei luchot avanim karishonim, make them 2 tablets like the first ones. The katafti al haluchot, and write on these tablets et hadvarim asher hayu al haluchot harishonim asher shibarta, and write the words that were on the first tablet. Write them on the second tablet, that first tablet that you broke. So, Oznaim LaTorah asks the question, and we're going to have some other commentaries ask the question as well. And hadvarim asher hayu al haluchot harishonim. So he says, write the words that were on the first tablet, and then it concludes with right. Then it concludes Asher Shibarta, that you destroyed. Very strange question. As I said, many commentators deal with it. Why does it have to mention that Moshe destroyed them? Obviously he did. It's well known. If you're just going to reference that work, those 2 tablets, to say those 2 tablets. Why do you have to also mention that you broke? So Nira, Shosifa Zu Ba Lahotzi Min HaMekubal Eitzel Bnei Adam Yoshve Choshech. This this comes to teach you, this addition that he destroyed them, comes to teach you something regarding the idea that most people sit in darkness. What does that mean? V'lo naga alehem or haTorah, because they do not have the light of the Torah. She'im paras ha'am ba'avur al ezem mitzvah mitzvot Hashem asher lo tasena. Because if it was for yep. Yeah, because if the people are not learning Torah, siman aslam she'ein hatzibur yachol amod ba, that the people are not able uh, to have the Torah. Harehu chas v'shalom batla ki'ilu haita rak zeret hachamim min haTorah. It's as if people aren't learning Torah, it's as if there isn't a Torah. The fact that there wasn't a luchot for that short amount of time is as if there was not a Torah. Chas v'shalom. Of course there was Torah, because there's Torah Shabbal Peh. There's oral Torah. That's why the verse as that you destroyed. Lomar af al pi. One second. Even though, yeah. Even though af al pi sha'asa ha'am egel masecha v'huchrach Moshe l'shaber et haluchot shenamar bahem lo ta'aseh lecha kol pesel. He destroyed those tablets. Why? Because that was like a document that sort of proved that the Jewish people were doing the wrong thing. Because the Jewish people were worshiping an idol, and the luchot says do not worship idols. So that's why he threw them down, to destroy them, so that there's no quote-unquote proof that they were doing anything wrong. Al kol zeh lo batla chas v'shalom mitzvat l'talmud Torah zu. Nevertheless, that does not in any way eradicate the law to learn Torah. V'katavti al haluchot zetavrim asher hayu halachta alechet harishonim asher shibata. That's why he says that you should make the tablets like you did the first ones, because what was true there is going to be true here also. The davar Elokeinu yakum leolam, and the word of Hashem stands for forever. Ve'alpei avreinim yavdu min ha'olam lo levatel af ot echad b'torat hakadoshim. So it doesn't matter, is what he's saying. It doesn't matter that the Torah, that the first luchot were destroyed. We need to know that not a single letter of the Torah can be ever forgotten or ever not irrelevant. There are people out there, right? Rav Sorotskin, who just quoted from Oznaim LaTorah. Rav Sorotskin writes very often about this idea that there are people out there who think that the Torah is old-fashioned, it's no longer relevant, so just forget about it. Just teach it like some other ancient work, Epic of Gilgamesh, chas v'shalom, or something like that. It's just another work. That's not Torah. Torah is relevant always, and it's our job to study it in depth to see that. That's why Moshe is reminded that he broke these luchot, because even the luchot were not irrelevant anymore just because they were destroyed, just because they weren't followed. Just because there's people in the world who don't keep the Torah doesn't mean it's irrelevant. The Torah is from Hashem, so it's always relevant. Yes, there are people who are going to not keep it. They'll see what kind of reward there is for that. There's a reward and punishment in the world. That's part of the 13 animamins. So they'll get something. Don't worry. That's up to Hashem, not up to us. Torah Moshe. It's one of the works of the Chatam Sofer on the Torah. So he writes, Et advarim asher hayu haluchot harishonim asher shibarta. Chazal, according to Chazal, Yasher kochacham shibarta. It says in the Gemara in Shabbat, Pei Zayin, Amud Aleph, 87a, that in a sense, Hashem thanked Moshe. He said, Yasher koach, good job that you destroyed the luchot. So it seems like a good thing that he did that. Chazal, Amala Reuven, excuse me. Chata Aloha Midu Hakadosh Baruch Hu Al Har Eval Lomar Arur Shochev Im Eshet Aviv. So when it comes to the sin of Reuven, which we've talked about before back in Bereshit, where he moved his father's bed. Hanir li al mala chata egel kayam lo haya nichtav al haluchot shniot lo ta'aseh lecha pesel harishonim afilu hachi uh, al korchacha. Right, you'd be forced to say lo chatu the kevan shenishbaru haluchot nizbatlu harison. So again, the same idea that just because it's in the Torah, and the Torah and the luchot were destroyed, so maybe it's not a relevant thing anymore. Lo niztavu al asiyat pesel b'shutaf. But it doesn't say you can't make this like a partnership of some sort. Kiven the have kifanu chazru l'din ben Noach in mitzvah al shituf kshitat rebbeinu. Okay, so he quotes Tosfot there. V'hainu katafti et advarim asher hayu al haluchot harishonim. That's why I'm writing these same words that were on the first tablets. Hainu lo tasa lecha pesel. And one of those words is do not make a pesel, do not make a statue. Vatam asher shibarta, the reason that you destroy me, yan shibarta v'nitbatla harison harishonim. Imkain ein kan avon asher chatu. So the fact that Moshe destroyed the first tablets is a good thing. And the reason that it's a good thing is because, in a sense, he was trying to cover up for the Jewish people. And that in itself, that kind of sacrifice is already worthy of being rewarded. And that's why it's being mentioned here. Because there's, yes, you destroyed it. Yes, it was something that was probably very traumatizing to the Jewish people at the time, no question. But nevertheless, it needed to be done. All right. Very end of the parsha, Hashem commands Moshe again for 40 days and 40 nights to be writing the Torah, and that's where it says. Chapter 34, verses 27 to 28. Where Moshe katav lecha hadvarim ha'ele. Write these words. Ki al pi hadvarim ha'ele karati itcha brit et Yisrael. Because of these words, because of the Torah, that's why I'm making a brit. I'm making a covenant with the Jewish people. The H-Shem im H-Shem, and he was there with Hashem, Arbaim Yom, Arbaim Laila, 40 days, 40 nights. Lechem lo achal, bread he didn't eat, mayim lo shata, water he didn't drink. V'ichtov al haluchot et divrei habrit aseret hadvarim, and he wrote on the luchot the 10 commandments, the 10 words. Okay, it's more than 10 words. All right, so that's that. Writes the Meshech Chachma. It's a long piece, but it's I think we can do it. He writes these words. He says to write these covenants. Amar Hashem Elai Pesach Chule. Who's writing this? And look at the verses. It says, Hashem says to Moshe, write these words, karati itcha, that I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you this covenant. V'yisham, and he was with Hashem 40 days and 40 nights. And what did he do? V'yichtov, and he wrote these words. So it sounds like Moshe's writing them. K'tav lecha, you should write. And he wrote. Sounds like he's doing it. But elsewhere in the Torah, it doesn't seem that way. It seems that he's just taking, he's taking dictation from Hashem. Hashem is writing it, and Moshe is just literally just carving things out. So which is it? And he quotes the verse we just learned, Ha'inyan. And what we're trying to learn here is the lesson here is this. Ki el malei chatu be'ega v'lo nistavru luchot harishonim lo nishtachacha Torah Misrael. So the Torah will not be forgotten amongst the Jewish people. V'lo haita uma v'loshon shaletet bahem. And there's not going to be any loss of the language for them. So Moshe's gonna write exactly word for word exactly the same things. Ubabir, the explanation is kilule zeh haya hofat or elokei poel bam hayu mezuchachi hachomer vayu mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh. You have to remember that these aren't just words. What is Moshe writing down? The words of the Torah. Oh, it's just, from another book would be the same thing, right? Wrong. That's not what we're talking about here at all. This is the word of Hashem. And it would be as and this is the words that are going to go not to just anybody, but to this nation of people who are supposed to be priests. Mamlechet Kohanim v'goy kadosh, a whole nation of priests and holy people. Aval ke'eh tzarech kol adam liyagia lizkach chumrato v'tachunot nafsho v'midot yisharot v'tahorot. That's when people are living their best, on the highest level that they can. Gam le'amol al limud Torah at panav k'orif. So to do that, you need to, if you want to live in your highest level, you need to learn Torah to the point where you darken your face. Your face gets all muddied up from Torah. And only then, after you've tried and put in your effort and really broke yourself to understand Torah, that's when you get a present of siyata d'shmaya, and then you understand more than what you even learned. Kol makabel alav ol Torah ma'avirin mimenu ol malchut v'ol derech eretz. So, as the Mishnah tells us, that somebody who takes on the yoke of Torah pushes off all other responsibilities. Those responsibilities, it's not like he's pushing them off on purpose. Oh, I'm too lazy to, take care of this. Those don't affect you. They don't occur to you. They bounce right off of you. Torah becomes like a sort of guard for that. Similar. Therefore, luchot harishonot ma'aseh Elokim hema HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'atzmo ashan. Hashem made those first luchot himself. The first luchot were made by Hashem. Gam aktiva, even the writing. Lo kein luchot shniot. That's not what the case was with the second luchot that we're talking about here. What happened? Moshe pasal otam gam aktiva Moshe katvam kederech kol adam hakotev. These were dictated by Hashem, but Moshe did the writing. This was written by Moshe. Aval hachika mizeh mizeh keder shehia haluchot harishona mizeh inyan nesiv nifla ka'amra zal shemem v'samach shebeluchot b'neis hayu omdin. However, the miracle of the carving of the letters, that miracle came from Hashem. Moshe didn't make that miracle. What does it mean, the carving of the letters? So the rabbis tell us that, for example, the mem and the samach, that are round letters, so the round part inside them, right, levitated in between the writing. It stood there. I don't know if you've ever tried to use a, right, when what are those things called? When you're trying to use like a mold or whatever to write something from, I forget the word, but if it's a letter that has something like a hole inside it, like an A in English, an A, right? So there's a triangle at the top. So how are you going to draw that triangle? So what some people do when they make these molds, there's an attachment from the outside in, right? There's a little line, and it keeps it together. So the same thing should have been happening here, but that's not what happened. That samech and that mem, those circles floated inside the letter. That miracle came from Hashem. And that's what's being implied here. In other words, just like we have this idea that we worked in Torah, we struggle in Torah, and that struggle eventually reaches a miraculous point where Hashem gives us as a gift that Torah that we're trying to learn. Same thing with these luchot. That's what the Meshech Chochmah is trying to tell us. That in writing these luchot, what happened was Moshe struggled. Moshe had to do the writing. That's the human effort. Just like we learn Torah, we put in the human effort. And miraculously, a miracle happens. The Siyata Dishmaya comes, and the Siyata Dishmaya had a physical representation in the luchot of these miraculous floating letters. These miraculous letters that could be seen back and forth on either side of the luchot could be read the same way. In other words, these miracles happen after our human effort, especially in the area of Torah. And that's what Hashem wanted for the message to be for those of us who learn Torah, which is, I hope, all of us. Well, why else are you watching this video? Unless you just want to see cool bookshelves. Right? We're learning Torah for a reason. And as we learn, we don't always maybe understand. We try to figure something out, and we look into it, and we do some research or whatever else, and we stay up late, and we lose sleep, and we're learning and learning, try to figure something out, and then something happens. A light bulb comes on, a light bulb you didn't have before, because it's a miraculous light bulb. It's a light bulb Hashem installed, right? And it works, and it's amazing. And that's when the Torah comes in and you understand what you've been learning. You even understand stuff you haven't been learning. It all becomes much more clear. That idea is represented in the fact that Moshe wrote these luchot, but the chiseling came from Hashem. Moshe just wrote like a normal person does with a pen or whatever. I don't know what kind of pen, Bic or whatever, right? So whatever it was, and Hashem made the miracle of these letters being able to miraculously be seen the same way on either side, and to float if they needed to float, etc. Again, so what can we wish for as we learn a parsha like this? We hope that the Torah we're learning is Taka does that it will influence us, will improve us, make us better people, but also that it'll allow us to learn more and more miraculously. Even things we haven't learned yet or haven't tried to learn yet, we'll have an easier understanding of things the more we learn the Holy Torah. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and the Shabbat Shalom.